Blake Shelton has been one of country music's most recognizable voices for more than 2 decades. His songs carry warmth, honesty, and humor that millions of people around the world have connected with deeply. He built a career filled with chart-topping hits, successful albums, and a famous role on television that made him a household name far beyond country music fans. But lately, the bright lights that have always followed him have started to reveal a different side of his story. Behind the jokes and the easygoing charm that everyone loves, Shelton has been dealing with personal struggles that go much deeper than what fans see on stage. In recent interviews and private moments, he has opened up about feeling lost after certain honors and titles faded away, almost like part of who he was disappeared when the world stopped paying attention in the same way. People who have followed his journey for years are starting to see that even someone as successful as Blake Shelton can feel isolated and question his own worth, even with millions of fans supporting him. Before we dive deeper into Blake's story, if you're enjoying this content and want to stay updated on more stories about your favorite artists, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue bringing you these in-depth looks at the lives and careers of the musicians you care about. Now, let's get back to Blake's journey. The tension in Blake's life became impossible to ignore after the American Music Awards in Los Angeles in early 2025. This was supposed to be a night of celebration, a chance for artists to shine and for fans to see their favorite stars together on one stage. Many people expected Blake and his longtime partner Gwen Stefani to appear together, maybe even perform as a couple, which would have sent a strong message that their relationship was still going strong after years of facing challenges, both personally and professionally. But when the cameras started flashing and the red carpet filled with celebrities, only Gwen showed up. She wore a stunning metallic gown and smiled for the cameras as if everything was perfectly fine. Blake's absence, though, became the biggest story of the night. Within minutes, social media exploded with questions and theories. Why wasn't Blake there? What happened between him and Gwen? According to reports that came out later, Blake had been upset about some last-minute changes to a performance they were supposed to do together. Gwen had apparently rewritten parts of the song's lyrics without telling him until right before the show. For someone like Blake, who has always valued honesty and emotional truth in his music, the idea of going on stage and performing words he didn't agree with felt wrong. It felt like a betrayal of everything he stood for as an artist. What was meant to be a beautiful moment showcasing their partnership instead became a point of division that Blake couldn't bring himself to ignore. Things got even more complicated when Gwen performed her new song that night called No Apology Required. The song was a bold pop rock track with lyrics about betrayal, distance, and staying strong when harmony breaks down. Everyone watching couldn't help but wonder if the song was about her relationship with Blake. Instead of showing the world that they were united, the performance seemed to suggest that there were serious problems between them. Fans who had been hoping for reassurance left the show with more questions and doubts than ever before. The story dominated entertainment news for days. Social media platforms were flooded with speculation in the days that followed. Some fans believed Gwen had used the stage to send a hidden message to the world about what was really going on in her relationship. Others focused on Blake, wondering why he stayed quiet instead of explaining what happened. When he finally broke his silence, it was with a short, mysterious message online that suggested sometimes words aren't necessary and that silence itself can say more than any song ever could. But his brief statement didn't clear anything up. If anything, it made people more curious and more worried about him. His followers sent waves of support, fearing that he was hurting more than he would ever admit publicly. As if dealing with relationship troubles wasn't hard enough, Blake soon faced another painful setback in his professional life. His highly anticipated album, called Backroads and Heartaches, was supposed to come out in June 2025, but his record label suddenly decided to delay it. This wasn't just another album for Blake, it was deeply personal, filled with songs about love, heartbreak, and moving into a new chapter of his life. After he stepped away from his coaching role on The Voice, he had poured all of his emotions into this record. The songs revealed his most vulnerable thoughts and feelings.
But the label was worried that releasing the album during all the controversy and rumors would bury the music under tabloid gossip. They thought it would be better to wait until the public attention shifted to something else. For Blake, this delay was devastating. Music has always been his safe place, the one thing that helped him heal when life got hard. Now it felt like even that comfort was being taken away from him exactly when he needed it most. Friends close to him said he admitted the decision left him shaken, like his sanctuary had been stolen. People who know Blake best found these developments very troubling. Even though he has always shown the world a funny, charming, and relaxed personality, his friends have long known that he hides his deepest pain behind smiles and jokes. The combination of public pressure, a struggling relationship, and disappointment in his career was weighing on him in a way that seemed different from anything he had faced before. Blake has dealt with heartbreak before, most notably when he divorced Miranda Lambert back in 2015. That split happened under intense scrutiny from fans and the media, and it was extremely difficult for him. But people close to Blake say this current situation feels even harder. With Miranda, at least people understood that celebrity marriages are complicated and sometimes don't work out. But with Gwen, many fans had believed this was his stable, forever relationship. They had weathered so many storms already. To see old doubts coming back to the surface was especially painful for Blake, because it made him question whether stability in love and career could ever really last.
Meanwhile, Gwen's silence after the award show only made the speculation worse. Some people saw it as a smart decision to avoid making the controversy bigger. Others thought it meant she was ready to step away from being seen as half of a power couple and reclaim her identity as a solo artist. Music critics pointed out that her performance at the awards seemed like a return to the bold, independent energy of her early solo career, similar to her Tragic Kingdom days. This made people wonder if she was preparing to start a new chapter in her life that didn't involve being seen primarily as Blake Shelton's partner. While the world debated what would happen next, Blake retreated to his ranch in Oklahoma, far away from the bright lights and chaos of Los Angeles and New York. Surrounded by wide-open countryside, he focused on spending time with family, doing outdoor work, and writing songs. Friends described him as someone who drew strength from quiet solitude and found healing in the simple rhythms of ranch life. He channeled his pain into lyrics that those close to him believe might one day become some of his most moving work. History has shown that Blake often creates his most powerful music during his hardest times. He has a gift for turning personal loss into songs that touch listeners on a deeply emotional level. Fans who remember how his past heartbreaks produced timeless hits are hopeful that the same thing will happen again. They trust that out of all this confusion and sadness will come new music that speaks directly to their own struggles with love and loss. For now, Blake hasn't given any clear answers about his relationship with Gwen or when his album will finally be released. But people who have followed his journey closely believe that resilience has always been his defining quality. To understand how he might find his way forward, it helps to look back at where his story began. Blake Tollison Shelton was born on June 18, 1976 in Ada, Oklahoma. His mother owned a beauty salon, and his father worked as a car salesman. Music became part of his world early on. By the time he was 12 years old, his uncle had taught him how to play guitar. Within just a few years, Blake was writing his own songs, showing a talent that seemed meant for bigger things. When he was 16, he received the Denbo Diamond Award in Oklahoma, which recognized promising young musicians in the state. But his teenage years were also marked by tragedy. In November 1990, his older brother Richie died in a car accident. He was only 24 years old. This event left a permanent mark on his heart and would later echo through his music for years to come. At 17, determined to chase his dream, Blake moved to Nashville. He started working at a music publishing company while continuing to develop his skills as a songwriter and performer. The music industry in Nashville was incredibly competitive, filled with talented people, all chasing the same dream. Industry veterans started to notice Blake's talent. In 1997, a well-known songwriter named Bobby Braddock helped him get a production deal with Sony, setting him on the path toward professional success. But success didn't come easily or quickly. Blake's early career had its share of disappointments. When he signed with Giant Records in the late 1990s, he was promised that a song called I Wanna Talk About Me would be his first major single. but the song was taken away from him and given to Toby Keith instead, who turned it into a #1 hit. For Blake, this was a harsh lesson about how the music business worked. It showed him that timing and luck were just as important as talent. Still, he refused to give up. His own debut single came in 2001 with a song called Austin. The song connected with listeners immediately, telling a story about love and missed connections in a way that felt both fresh and deeply relatable. Critics praised its creativity, and the track climbed the charts quickly, staying at #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart for 5 weeks. With Austin, Blake proved that his voice could stand out in a crowded industry. Even with that early success, Blake's career didn't follow a straight line upward. Some critics were divided on his style, arguing that his music leaned too much into alternative country trends. But Blake never tried to completely mold himself to fit other people's expectations. Instead, he focused on blending traditional country storytelling with modern sounds, creating a balance that would eventually become his trademark. His persistence paid off as he gradually built a reputation not just for his vocal talent, but also for the raw honesty in his lyrics. Blake's true breakthrough came in 2011 with an album called Red River Blue. The album's lead single, Honeybee, became a massive success, breaking digital sales records for male country artists. Within 10 weeks, it reached #1 on the charts. The album itself debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, establishing Blake as a dominant force in country music. Follow-up singles like God Gave Me You, Drink on It, and Over each found similar success, giving him a streak of consecutive #1 hits that positioned him as one of country music's most reliable hitmakers. By this point, Blake had gone from being a hopeful newcomer in Nashville to one of the genre's leading voices. During this same time, Blake's role on the television show The Voice was making him famous beyond the country music world. As one of the original coaches on the show, he quickly proved that his humor, honesty, and warmth weren't just stage personas, but reflections of his true character. His playful rivalry with fellow coach Adam Levine became legendary, giving audiences comedic moments that made the show even more entertaining. But behind the humor, Blake took his coaching role seriously. Contestants often talked about how he balanced lighthearted encouragement with clear, constructive advice. He listened to their stories, helped them connect emotions to song choices, and reminded them that being authentic was more important than showing off vocal tricks. His consistent wins on the show weren't accidents. They were the result of a philosophy rooted in honesty, patience, and understanding.
Blake's personal life during these years was also very public. His marriage to fellow country star Miranda Lambert had been celebrated as a union of two of the genre's brightest talents. To many fans, they represented country music royalty. But behind the scenes, the marriage faced pressures that few outsiders could truly understand. The constant demands of touring, the attention from fans and media, and the rumors that always surrounded celebrity relationships took their toll. In July 2015, Blake and Miranda announced their divorce, shocking fans and sending ripples through the music world. For Blake, it wasn't just the end of a marriage. It felt like losing a personal anchor during a time when his career was demanding more from him than ever. Rather than hiding from the public eye, Blake channeled his heartbreak into music. In 2016, he released an album called If I'm Honest that reflected his emotional state after the divorce. Songs like Came Here to Forget and She's Got Away with Words carried raw emotion, revealing a man who was using music to process pain. Fans connected deeply with the honesty in the lyrics, and the album found commercial success. Blake showed once again that his greatest strength as an artist was his ability to turn personal experiences into universal stories that other people could relate to. It was on The Voice that Blake's relationship with Gwen Stefani began. At first, their pairing seemed unlikely. He came from the world of country music, she came from pop and rock. But what began as two coaches supporting each other through parallel divorces blossomed into one of entertainment's most talked about romances. Their connection surprised many fans, but the contrast in their backgrounds only seemed to make their bond stronger. They collaborated on heartfelt duets that showed their chemistry, and their public appearances revealed a relationship that balanced playfulness with genuine affection. For years, they stood as an example of how love could emerge in unexpected places and overcome the challenges of fame. But as the 2020s moved forward, cracks began to show. The pressures of fame, constant public attention, and differences in their careers created tension. By 2025, when the American Music Awards controversy happened, their relationship was under the microscope again. For Blake, who had already lived through one painful public divorce, the possibility of history repeating itself felt especially difficult. The disappointment of missing the awards show, hearing lyrics that seemed to signal distance in their relationship, and the silence that followed from Gwen left him facing not just professional challenges, but deep personal uncertainty. Blake's music has always been more than just entertainment. It has been like a diary set to melody, a collection of confessions in a voice that resonates with both strength and vulnerability. His early songs carried the energy of a young artist eager to prove himself. His later work bore the weight of real-life experience, heartbreak, healing, and the ongoing balance between keeping some things private while living so much of life in public. When people listen to Austin, they hear more than just a love song. They hear a young man putting sincerity into his art, hoping someone, somewhere, would connect with it. As Blake's collection of albums grew, he began balancing upbeat, humorous tracks with heartfelt ballads about loss and longing. Songs like Some Beach showcased his funny, light-hearted side, while deeply emotional songs like The Baby could make listeners cry. Fans came to expect both sides, recognizing that Blake embodied the duality of country music itself, a genre that celebrates both joy and sorrow. Albums like Red River Blue represented turning points not just because of commercial success, but because they showed Blake's growth as an artist. He could make people smile with songs like Honeybee and then move them deeply with tracks like God Gave Me You. Blake's influence extends beyond his personal story. He has played an important role in shaping modern country music, creating a bridge between traditional storytelling and mainstream appeal. While some purists criticized his willingness to embrace pop country trends, others argued that he helped bring the genre to a much wider audience. His ability to blend humor, heartbreak, and relatability has made him an ambassador for country music. Younger artists often mention him as an influence, not just for his music, but for his career longevity and his ability to adapt to changes in the industry. What makes Blake's story so compelling is that despite all his success, he remains deeply human. He has never pretended to have all the answers or to be immune to pain. His willingness to share vulnerability through his songs presents a complex portrait of masculinity in country music. He projects the image of a rugged, down-to-earth guy, but he's also unafraid to admit heartbreak and express longing. This proves that strength and openness are not opposites. In a genre that sometimes relies heavily on stereotypes of tough, stoic men, Blake's balance of humor and sincerity has broadened possibilities for male country singers who come after him. As fans wait to see what happens next in Blake's life, whether that means new music, a reconciliation with Gwen, or a complete reinvention of himself, one thing remains clear. Blake Shelton has built a legacy not just on talent, but on honesty. That honesty is what keeps him in the hearts of millions of people. His journey reminds us that fame doesn't protect anyone from pain, but it can provide a platform to share that pain in ways that help others feel less alone. Blake has shown time and again that he can transform hardship into creativity, turn laughter into resilience, and convert heartbreak into connection. Those who know Blake best say that in the quiet of his Oklahoma ranch, surrounded by family and the simple routines of everyday life, he continues to write. They believe that out of this current period of struggle will come music that captures something universal about the human experience. Blake's greatest work has often emerged from his hardest times, and there's every reason to believe that pattern will continue. His ability to weave personal stories into melodies that comfort others is what has kept his career not just alive but thriving for more than 20 years.
Blake Shelton's story is ultimately about resilience. It's about the courage to keep creating even when life feels overwhelming. It's about understanding that even in the darkest moments, there is potential for beauty and meaning. His legacy is already secure, but his fans know his story is far from over. Whether the next chapter brings reconciliation, new beginnings, or a complete reinvention of himself, Blake will continue to transform the raw materials of life into songs that remind us all of the power of honesty and heart. For every listener who has leaned on his music during difficult times, the promise of what he creates next is more than just entertainment. It's a form of connection, a reassurance that none of us walk through heartbreak alone.